we go by the book. If we went by logic, where would we be as a company? The business planning meeting.
Best done in rooms on a lower floor with Gorilla Glass and with no sharp object. Planning for the business plan meeting.
Oh my God, this one is really horrendous. The morning briefing meeting. Now it shares the same traits of being boring, but it has three kind of unique characteristics.
Extreme gravity actually slows down time. I cannot remember any matters of gravity being discussed in these meetings.
Which would be okay if at least they were discussed with brevity. Hello to our viewers. And Rahul, let me start with this greeting. Have you ever been to a meeting that has been brief or fleeting?
Oh, Parry, you're in your element, huh? A poem to start us off. It almost made me laugh. A meeting that is brief. That's a kind of oxymoron, no? We should have put it right there along with the humble leadership and honest advertising.
Yes.
Honestly, the only so-called short meetings that I remember, short ones, they were planned for 30 minutes. Then they ran into 1 hour. And at the end of it, we still didn't finish anything done. You know, I honestly call this one experiences what is called time dilation in these meetings. You know, time dilation is a phenomenon in physics where extreme gravity actually slows down time. But for all I jog my memory, I cannot remember any matters of gravity being discussed in these meetings.
Which would be okay, matters of gravity not being discussed if at least they were discussed with brevity. But that doesn't happen either.
That's true.
So today, why don't we make that the topic of our podcast? The tyranny of meetings in the corporate world.
Actually, it's a good idea, Paddy. But you know what? If we're anyway going to cover meetings, let's not just stop at covering meetings. Let's also give our viewers ideas to manage and cope and accommodate them without really getting unduly penalized. You know, if you remember, we did that already when we told them how to, how to answer the interview question.
Yes. And we also told them
couch your weakness as a strength.
And then we also taught them how to be humble truly and how to fake it by using the word humble.
Absolutely.
In every sentence. And in addition to teaching them when and how to use business jargon, we taught them 2 new pieces of jargon too. The centipede move and the southpaw maneuver. Basically, in a subtle way, viewers, I'm urging those of you who are viewing this for the first time, go back and view the other podcasts too, and then you will learn much more.
All right. So, Paddy, why don't we just get started with the agenda? Now that we agreed there's going to be meetings, why don't we just get started on that?
Let's get started. Yeah. Let's get started. Now, to get started, there's so many meetings I've attended over the years of my career, all of them, so many of them boring and uninteresting.
Okay, so Paddy, if all the meetings you attended were boring and, draggy, and you were in there, I can already start seeing a pattern. But coming back to a question, what to start off with, why don't you begin with the first?
Oh, the first meeting I attended. Let me see now. I have to go back to when I was a management trainee.
Not the first meeting. Since you don't have the body of a Gajini, I assume you don't have the memory of one too. I meant the first suggestion, first thought that comes into your mind. I hope you still remember it.
The first meeting that comes to my mind, do I remember it? Actually, I do. It's an easy one because the damn meeting used to happen almost every week across all the jobs, most of the jobs I did. It's called the weekly status meeting. Usually scheduled for 1 hour, but more usually the boss single-handedly would ensure that it goes into 30 to 60 minutes extra. And that, I think, would take the cake. And let's start with that meeting.
Then why don't we start that, since you already bring up the topic, why don't we start using our time-tested ploy of converting it into a role play?
Excellent idea.
So you can be our famous CEO, Patrick Montgomery.
Oh, yes.
Of Alpha Beta Pipes. And I'll play the various characters in tow who report to him the weekly statuses.
Yes.
So you can have a go.
I think it's a very good idea, but let's stick to just 1 or 2 roles within the meeting. Otherwise, we'll make this so boring that our listeners may get into a trance.
Of course. We don't have an hour to record this
visit
podcast. Okay, right.
Okay, shall we get into it then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our weekly meeting. Now, every other company calls it a weekly status meeting, but you know, in our Alpha Beta pipes, we have a name for it. It's called the Montgomery Mantra Maintenance Meeting.
Correct.
Thank you. And like every week, let's start by chanting with enthusiasm and energy the Montgomery Mantra.
Yes.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's make Alpha Beta great again and again. Excellent. Clap, please. Okay, that's a hearty start as usual. And let's get things started with operations.
Yes.
So, Chris. Chris.
Oh, sorry. So, Patrick, I was stuck on this difficulty level 6, and of the stocks, and sorry, what was the question again?
Question.
Sorry. I tell you what. Give me 5. Why don't you move on and do the HR first?
Hey, Chris, you really need to get your ducks in a row, man. Lift your game, take it to the next level, and have a paradigm shift, okay?
Sure.
Okay, for now, HR, Patricia, are you ready at least to share the HR update?
Of course, Patrick, I'm always ready. I'm always ready, as is my HR department. After the last status update meeting, I immediately went to my subordinate called Joe. Was it Joe? Yes, it was Joe. And, I told him, Joe, this can't go on. I need a status update immediately. It's a status update meeting. But you know what? Joe was not at his desk. So I said, Joe, I called him, I pinged him. Then he said he needs to get to speak to Karen. Okay. So I said, do it, man. You said to speak him.
Sorry, yes. Patricia, I think we should pick up the pace a little bit. I love listening to the update, but you have a whole week to cover and you're only on Monday morning. But when you said to Joe, do it immediately, I must share something that came to me over the weekend, which you might find useful to share with the employees. As one more of the great statements from your CEO, if you think it's worth it.
Sure.
Here's what it is. This is what I thought of. I said, do it immediately unless you can do it faster.
Do it immediately unless you can do it faster. That's amazing. Oh, God. Patrick, that's so amazing, so amazing. Patrick, that's just the reason, one of the main, many reasons why I love working for you.
Thank you.
You come up with such management, and I don't know, Patrick, how you really do it. You're amazing. But where was I? Yeah, I went back to Joe, and he wasn't at his desk. So I asked him to call Karen. Karen was also not at the desk. So you know what? I don't take no for an answer. So I called Deepa. She was on medical leave, but I said, no, this is the Montgomery Mantra maintenance meeting. You need to call in.
Excellent.
Anyway, I think we can take a pause there, Paddy, because I think our viewers have understood how these meetings go. People are underprepared, people don't take it seriously, but still is a part of your ritual, and people turn up.
And some people take it too seriously and get into gory detail.
So I think all of the viewers must have experienced this. Let's actually tell them how to cope.
Yes, very good idea.
So tip number 1, viewers, carry a lot of water and sip frequently. You can really get dehydrated with all this boredom. And also remember, try to blink often, because you can risk going to sleep with your eyes open. Whoa. So blinking keeps your eyes, moist. Again, don't blink too often, because you'll be mistaken for a kidnapped victim trying to ask, the rescuers for help, which is actually not too far away from the truth, which is actually what happens in these meetings. Yeah.
That's excellent advice. I remember being in a meeting where there was no water. My tongue became dry. My mouth was hanging open, and I wanted to go get water, but I was told no, important matter was being discussed. It was torture, man. But Rahul, this advice is not peculiar to only the weekly status meeting. Surely one should carry water for every meeting. It's kind
Absolutely, Paddy. In fact, that you make a very important point. So viewers, as Paddy said, not only carry water, but also carry it in a bottle, because you don't want to risk, dozing off in your Super Grande Massimo reusable Starbucks cup and drowning yourself to death. So carry yourself in a bottle. And I think, Paddy, our advice should be something on coping mechanisms that can be applied across meetings.
Yes.
Right? You can't have different mechanisms for different meetings.
Yes. You can't expect people to carry different slips of paper for different meetings.
Absolutely. So I think we should maybe provide a kind of coping list for them.
So let's do it maybe at the end. And why not brand it to, something like Jest Business Corps?
Not a bad idea. In fact, I'm already thinking of some idea. We could have a buzzword bingo.
Wow, yes.
Or a meetings-based crossword. Or name your character, where we have a cartoon cutout which sits on the phone and whose, the look of the character befits the voice that's coming on the phone. In fact, I'm getting lots of many ideas, but I think let's do that at the end.
Oh, it's wonderful ideas, actually. We could actually make meetings interesting again. Merchandise. You could have merchandise. Imagine a coffee mug with Jest Business on one side and on the other side.
Logo should be make meetings great again.
Make meet and again.
And again. Absolutely.
Again. Wow. Yes. That's, I think, but for now, shall we get on to the next meeting?
Next meeting.
What would you
meeting
suggest?
Do you think we should attack, Paddy? I'm thinking, I would recommend, since you're on the topic, the infamous or the famous business planning meeting.
The business planning meeting.
They last for a minimum of 3 hours, maybe even longer, if you're unlucky. And it could be pitched as a surefire cure for insomnia. Honestly, in some cases, also surefire cure for life. Because these meetings are done usually best done in rooms. I might recommend in rooms on a lower floor with Gorilla Glass and with no sharp objects.
No sharp
So
objects.
there's no risk of people trying to throw themselves to death trying to escape the meeting.
Yeah, no sharp objects. On the other hand, no very soft items either, because if you put pillows, then people may actually use them to sleep off. But I love that idea of doing this meeting. But in a sense, the business planning meeting is kind of essential to run a business. I think, Rahul,
I agree.
we have to concede that.
So I'll grant you that. So I'll say the meeting is essential. What I do not think is essential is the rambling and the meandering that goes on with different people. No one really comes to the point. Sometimes people also think they have to fill up the time to come up with the mindless facts. If they're given 30 minutes, people think they have to fill up 30 minutes. They can't do it short. Come in with a lot of facts and then the meeting's gone to painfully long business planning.
I agree.
Meetings. So it can be shorter. It's not. So maybe let's do a role play. Maybe I'll do another CEO. Let's have what's the guy? B.S. Benson. What was his name?
Bradley Scott
Benson. So I'll do that CEO, Bradley Scott Benson, presiding over a regional
good idea.
business planning meeting with various regions reporting thing. Maybe, and let's say it's scheduled for a week, 1 day per country.
Okay.
All right. Mr. B.S. Benson. Welcome back, folks. Yesterday, it was extremely exhilarating to attend Australia's session. And for me, it was quite an eye-opener to realize that, several vital marketing sales variables that we usually monitor, like population, export data, weather, demographic mix, has really not changed a lot in Australia. So, the market seems to be a bit static. I think we'll have our own share of challenges. But I was found it very extremely refreshing. I think today, if I'm not wrong, we have on a schedule Indonesia. So let me not just waste more time. And let me hand over the meeting to our Indonesia GM, Mr. Peter Long. Peter?
Thank you, Bradley. It's a pleasure to be here and share Indonesia's business planning with all of you in the region. As you know, when I took over as CEO of Indonesia a year ago, the business was in shambles. Now, I don't mean to criticize, but the previous management, to be honest, had done more mismanaging than managing. But I took the bull by the horns. I hit the ground running, as I always do, even when I'm flying. And very soon, I effected a miraculous turnover. And today, it's our pleasure to share some of those details with you. Let me move to slide 1, which starts with a 30,000 feet view of the country. Let's start with the country first. So Indonesia's population is 273.5 million people. That makes Indonesia the 4th largest populated country in the world and the most populated Muslim country in the world, which many of you may not know. Francois?
Peter, we have already solved before. You said it last 3-4 meetings. It hasn't changed from year to year. Can you come to the meeting of fact?
Thank you, Francois, for paying attention last time. But I still think it's worth telling the people that Indonesia remains the number 1 Muslim country. Again, 1 more year in a row. Moving on, as you can see in this slide, it's a map of Indonesia in quite detail. There are a lot of islands there you can see. The number is 17,500 to be exact. 17,508. Because I often say, if you're not exact, you are nothing. Let me move on to slide 2.
Messy.
It's a financial slide. And for all financial slides, I like to start with an overview of the country currency. It is called the Indonesian rupiah. Each rupiah consists of 100 sen, but the sen is worthless now because of inflation. Let's go to GDP. The GDP of Indonesia is US $4,256 per capita. And remarkably, it grew by 3.7% last year. Shall we cut?
Yes, absolutely.
How was that, Rahul?
In a very weird and perverse kind of way, Paddy, that was mind-numbingly good, man. You are like 2 sentences short of being qualified for an animal-grade tranquilizer.
Thank you.
First, let me just point out first. First, your blatant showing off of the facts, that I pomp a stone. But especially because, you start with, I'm humbled. Our famous, I'm very humble. Before starting to really go and late on thick. But secondly, what I like it, and which I don't know whether viewers notice, I do not mean to criticize, and you delivered the most scathing criticism ever. So delivering a volume. And third, this is why the main reason why these meetings get useless, delivering a volume of useless facts which everyone knows or no one cares about.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
To, use this in business planning meetings, there's very less of planning and more of stating the obvious. So on that count, let's, I think, Paddy, move to meeting number 3.
Oh, yeah, sure. What would you suggest?
I mean, just to take a step backward in terms of our schedule, I would say this is the planning for the business plan meeting.
Oh my God, this one is really horrendous because this is actually scheduled for a day. I mean, it's not like the business planning meeting which may go into a day. This damn thing is scheduled for a day. Shall we do a role play again?
Yeah, why not? In fact, and usually if since you're role playing, I would say let's get a bit exotic. Let's do this in a place that is 2 hours away from Jakarta in Indonesia.
Sure. And let's confuse our readers again by seamlessly transferring. You be Peter Long, the CEO of Indonesia, same fellow, but you be him.
All right.
And I will play the various people in the meeting. And to help our viewers, you may like to introduce who it is speaking each time.
All right. So then let's get started.
Yes.
Good morning, team. And thank you for making this early start of 8 a.m. at this place. So anyway, coming back to the meeting, I want to spend the first 2 hours, 8 to 10, on a fantastic performance last year. Yes.
Sorry, Chris. Last year was not a great performance. We missed sales target by 12% and profit by 14%.
Yeah. I know that very well, Mainak. I know that. That's why I have planned these 2 hours for this very critical section of the planning meeting. We have to talk about the many business challenges that we faced, and then tell our story positively. That's what the challenge is. I mean, after all, we did grow sales by 2.5%.
Yes, we did grow by 2.5%, Chris, but the target was 13.8%. And by the way, 2.5% compares to the GDP growth of 4% almost. So we're behind.
I know, Mainak. I know it. And that's why I need you all to brainstorm and come up with some fantastic ideas that will explain our last year's performance as well. And as miraculous. I want 5 slides to show the poor state of the market, the poor state of the business before I joined last year. And then how we managed to turn around the critical functions. In fact, tell you what, I think we're going to take a lot longer because we need to put more thought and do some out-of-the-box thinking on that narrative. I tell you what, let's plan 3 hours for this section. And then we'll do department updates and then maybe 90 minutes for marketing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What about the morning break? I mean, we'll just get on to lunch without a break.
So on the morning break, I'll tell you what, we'll shorten it. We'll just, if my calculations are right, all these meetings sequentially should bring us to 12:30. Maybe we'll shorten the lunch to half an hour. Then we regroup at 1. Then we have a departmental updates that will bring us to 5:30. And then we have a 2-hour final summary presentation.
Whoa.
Yeah, it should be done by 7:30.
Oh, Chris, by then it'll be dark.
So, there are lights, Mainak. There are lights. The miracle of electricity. Have you heard it?
I've heard of that, sure, Chris, but we've driven 2.5 hours to come to this beautiful hillside on a Friday and 2.5 hours drive back. I mean, we could have done this meeting in Jakarta, this beautiful hillside. So we're just going to go back in the dark.
Let me get one thing clear. It is I decided this meeting, not because you guys can come here and have a holiday. This meeting is called planning for business meeting. There's some serious work that needs to be done. And now, as you have discovered, there's more work to be done than what we had originally planned. So we need to be flexible. We need to take the bull by its horns and drive our agenda first. Remember, always our mantra is to make Alpha Beta great again and again. And let's not lose focus of that. Get it? How was that, Paddy?
That was really, really good. I like the way you came down hard on some very reasonable requests and just stuck to your guns as every CEO do and actually made everybody feel guilty about thinking that what they were suggesting was outlandish.
So that's the problem with these meetings, right? I mean, okay, I agree they're meant to be taken seriously, but often I never saw the purpose of dragging the whole team out, to an exotic location and then lock yourself in a room. You might as well done in the
office,
city.
And at least the commute you would have saved.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. The next meeting, I'm going to suggest something that's more peculiar to the service industry.
Which is?
It's called the morning briefing meeting.
Okay.
Now, it shares the same traits of being boring and reasonably long with the other meetings, but it has 3 kind of unique characteristics. 1, it happens every day, not every week, not every year for the planning meeting, every day. Second trait, it happens early in the morning, sometimes as early as 7 a.m. for the service staff. And 3, kind of the worst, everybody's standing while you're getting briefed by the supervisor.
Is this I know this doesn't really happen in corporate settings, but this is the kind of service industry equivalent of a pep talk, right?
It's exactly.
What the coach comes and gives in the halftime.
It is exactly, except that it happens daily. It happens and everybody has just come in for the first shift of the day. And let me set this off as being the supervisor. Now, we need not stand up, I think, with the mics and all here, but let's pretend we are all standing. And I'm the supervisor. Let me start. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's early, but how do we start every day early meeting? We start by chanting our mantra. The earlier it is, the brighter we are.
Yeah.
Yes, let's chant it with a little more enthusiasm tomorrow, if you don't mind. Okay, first things first. Who is the most important person that we attend to? The customer.
Yeah.
And what are we always focused on? Customer service. Excellent. Sorry, Xavier. Did you say something just now?
No. I'm just saying I'm very excited to hear about customer service for the 17th day in a row.
And I'm excited that you are excited. Clean is not good enough for us in this company. We believe in I and S. I stands for immaculate and S stands for spotless. And when it comes to making the bed, please remember, as I've told you for the 300th time this year, the 3-step bed making procedure. Step 1, tuck in the tops and the bottom. Step 2, tuck in the sides. And step 3, measure and inspect for symmetry. Sorry, Maria, what is that?
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out that the new bed sheets, fitted sheets which we got last week, fit in exactly. The symmetry is inbuilt in the design. We don't need a step 3.
Whoa, Maria. We go by the book. We don't go by logic. If we went by logic, where would we be as a company? So the book says the 3rd step is measure and inspect, and we will follow the book until a new book is written, in which case we will follow the new book. Okay? Let's all end by standing straight and chanting the customer chant. Okay, together with me. Give me an L.
L.
Give me an O.
O.
Give me a V.
V.
Give me an E.
E.
What does that spell?
Love.
Love. And who do we love?
Our customer.
And how do we love our customer? Like our child. Okay, now together, all of us, at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We love the customer like our child. Again, louder.
We love the customer like our child.
So Rahul, how was that?
I think, Parry, it was brilliant. Especially the part where you say, we don't need to go by logic, we need to go by the book.
Yes.
That's really the reality of most corporate life. I really love that. And I love the war cry at the end. Give me L, give me O. We see that often also in this, corporate retreats and, mission statements where I have to boil down to a single word. But, Parry, I think we have taken a lot of time and we still have so many meaningless meetings to cover.
Yes, we do. Yeah. As well as advice on how to cope with the meetings.
Absolutely, that too.
But we are here. The podcast is here. Let's come back on another podcast
to
cover some more meetings and also advise on how to cope with them.
All right.
But I think you should give them the list of meetings at least.
So we have covered 1 to 4. Number 1 was the regular weekly meeting.
And number 2, following quickly in its wake, is the painfully long business planning meeting.
And number 3, but not for long, soon catching up, is the planning for the business planning meeting.
Number 4, morning briefing meeting.
And these are just some of the meetings we covered. What we haven't covered is the strategic alignment workshop.
That is at number 5. Number 6, this is an interesting one, folks. You must wait for this. The mandatory annual compliance training meeting.
And Parry, let's not forget the dark horse, the corporate retreat.
Oh, that number 7 corporate retreat is going to be a killer. Number 8, the post-match interview of an athlete. That's also a meeting of sorts.
And the new kid on the block, the pre-meeting meeting.
Oh, that's a gem. Yeah. That's a gem. And finally, the meeting to prepare a PowerPoint presentation for another meeting.
Absolutely. So, Parry, I think listeners have got the gist of what we're trying to cover, and I'm sure most of them have also experienced something similar. I think before we say goodbye, we should put out our usual request.
Yes.
The request to let you know if there are any other absurd meetings that you have covered in your careers, in your jobs, in your life, but that are not in the list of this 10-odd meetings that we said. Please write in to the Jest Business Podcast at gmail.com, the email that you see on your screen.
And apart from absurd meetings that you've attended, any other absurdities in business, write into the same place, jestbusinesspodcast at gmail.com. Till next time then, bye-bye.
Bye.